Alright, we're just gonna switch over. It's like nothing would work when I was trying that. Anyway, if anybody stuck around, we got the chat working now. Excuse me. So, this is a live stream, just working on my book, doing a live edit here. If you have any questions about your book, feel free to ask away. And I will do my best to guide you and help you get your manuscript out. So, we'll just get into it here. Turn the music down a little bit. Hopefully, yeah, I think you can hear me. Just trying to make sure you can see the whole page. So like this line here, I'm not a huge fan of right now. So Bray began to lunge forward, readying himself to race towards. Something about forward and towards doesn't work there for me, so I'm going to try to clean this up a little bit. So something about like getting down on your haunches, you know, like when you're gonna run, you want to bend your knees. And again, when you get to this part here, you know, I'm filling in what I think it would work better. But obviously I have to transfer this onto my computer eventually, into my document. And so it doesn't have to be perfect, but at least it's a note there that when I'm putting it into the manuscript, the digital version, it needs to be addressed again. So I wouldn't use that word, I would use, you know, I select ready. Not ready to race towards. So we need like I'm gonna come over to the thesaurus here. We need a better word for towards. Sometimes you get really stuck. It's funny, this is the beginning of the video. This is like, it usually goes a lot faster than this, but sometimes you struggle. Ray began to lunge forward, setting onto his hunches, ready to something, the only viable cover the new world around him seemed to offer. Not race towards, ready to... I don't want setting either. I like steadying, which I don't know how to spell. Steadying himself onto his haunches. Actually, so now this towards and fours doesn't bother me anymore. So the whole sentence would be, Bray began to lunge forward, steadying himself onto his haunches, ready to race towards the only viable cover the new world around him seemed to offer. It's good, right? Only to be suddenly pulled back by Evelyn's grasping hand. This is gonna be desperate grasping hand. So this is a good moment when you're in your manuscript to start kind of fluffing it up and giving it the character and the style, right? It could easily be pulled back by Evelyn's grasping hand, but instead pulled back by Evelyn's desperate grasping hand. It gives you an idea and a sense of like why she's doing it. She scrunched her fingers deep into the gray shirt Bray had been condemned to wear since his imprisonment. She scrunched her fingers. See, I don't think scrunched is right there. You know what I mean? Like, it's more intense than that, so we're gonna, again, go back to the thesaurus. Kind of like squeeze, but more of a digging. Pressed, could kind of like pressed, I guess. But again, that's not quite right. Let's try dug and see if we can get a better word. There we go. See, there's the word. So I had to go through a lot of different words to get there. What did we start with? Scrunched, squeezed, pushed, pressed, stabbed, and then that got us all the way to pierced, right? And that to me is like, that's the intensity you want. So it's going to be she pierced her fingers deep into the gray shirt Bray had been condemned to wear since his imprisonment. His imprisonment began, maybe? Let me see what the rest of the sentence is. The fabric pulling hard against his collar. So I'm going to change hard for sure. So I'm going to do, since his imprisonment began, he's been in prison, has to wear a uniform. The fabric pulling. So this is weird because we got pulling but pierced with an ED. She pierced her fingers deep into the gray shirt Bray had been condemned to wear since his imprisonment began. The fabric so it works, pulling hard against his collar. But it's not hard, right? So it could be heavily. Again, we're just going to keep going back to the thesaurus constantly today. So, what was the word? Hard. We're going to put heavily in. See, I like this. So we've got mercilessly here. I just realized my mouse doesn't show up on the screen over there, but I'm hovering over mercilessly. So that means it's like she wasn't letting go, right? So that's way better than the word hard. Which I'm a horrible speller, if you'll learn that eventually. So again, if you're joining in and you are a author or writing yourself and you want some tips or tricks or just some guidance or have some questions, I do a lot of panels and a lot of speaking, and I just love helping people, so let's get your manuscript out. Do a quick hops, so that doesn't quite tell you why she's hopping, especially people if you're just joining us and you don't know this story. Yelping from the burning pain of her wounded leg, Evelyn stopped moving. So this just needs to be restructured. All the information's there, but you're hiding it underneath this first line. So this first line's confusing because you don't know what the second one is. So all we're going to do is we're going to take this line after a couple quick hops, and we're going to move that to the end of the sentence so that it'll read, yelping from the burning pain of her wounded leg, Evelyn stopped moving after a couple quick hops. But obviously we're going to change a couple quick hops. That doesn't... One, the word quick is overused when writing. It's a huge problem I have even. You know, you can do swift, rapid, there's all these other great words. Quick comes up the most. And hops doesn't really... Hops sounds fun, right? She's not having fun. She has an old wound in her leg that stops her from moving too quickly. I just use quickly. It's more of a limp than a hop. So we might have to go with limps here. So I'm looking for a descriptive word for limp. Staggered was good. I saw another one that I liked. That like teetering limps, right? So the word couple I'm not a huge fan of here, so we're gonna do a few. Staggering, staggered, limps. No, see, still doesn't work with limps, right? Because then it would be yelping from the burning pain of her wounded leg. Evelyn stopped moving after a few staggered steps, right? A few staggered steps. We did it. And then you can't see at the very top here, but I always, it doesn't really necessary, but I put these little tallies up at the top. So since I started the video here, I've done 2. Just so when I'm kind of editing, it's like, oh wow, this page has a ton. Like, I don't know if you can see this page. I just randomly went back, but at least 18 fixes, right? So just get it back in position here. Shouldn't have moved. Okay. When she released her grasp around Bray's tense shoulders, he turned towards her. It's not really win, right? How about it's more like in that moment, in that same moment of her stopping moving. In that, yeah, I'll just say that. In that same moment. No, I'm gonna put Evelyn. I don't. In that same moment, Evelyn released her grasp around Bray's tensed shoulder. I don't know if it should be ED. I think it's just his tense shoulder, not tensed shoulder. Around his tense shoulder. And I don't really like that he turned towards her, so this is the ultimate secret for anybody watching. Okay? There's a book here, and it's called The Emotion Thesaurus. So sometimes you can't just go into a thesaurus on the computer like I do over here. What you're going to do, I'll put it here so we can all see it. So what is Bray feeling in this moment? He's confused, concerned, right? So we're going to start looking up these different traits. Okay, so here's confusion. So what would you do if you were confused by somebody's movements? So far, maybe tilting one's head. So like head flinching back, right? Kind of just looking at all of them here quick. So we're probably we're gonna see if we can go with head flinching back, right? Because then we can still get away with turning towards her. I just need something to put in the book. Okay. In the same moment, Evelyn released her grasp around Bray's tense shoulder. He turned towards her. So what did we say we were gonna do? He turned towards her. So I gotta figure out how to merge these two together, right? He turned towards her, head flinching back slightly. It's like too wordy. Turned towards her. Yeah, it's just too wordy. In that same moment, Evelyn released her grasp around Bray's tense shoulder. I think we just go with his head flinched back. We're gonna do causing. Causing his head. I have to get over here in the column. To flinch back slightly. So what we're going to do is going to put the movement, we're going to keep moving the movement down, right? So we're not going to do the turn towards her right there. We're going to try to move it into the next sentence. His eyes grew heavy, not the right word, as Evelyn reached up and placed her soft hand against his determined face. First off, as I know it's not heavy, so I'm going to do cloudy. Actually, I'm just gonna get rid of that movement altogether. I don't think we need that. He turned towards her. You know what I mean? Sometimes, sometimes the right answer is to let the reader fill in the gaps themselves. And I don't mean you should be like burying information, but like to allow the reader's mind to turn and face her is actually more emotional and impactful than telling the reader to turn their face to face her. It's a lot of faces. So we're going to leave that. So I'm just going to make a mark at the top that we did another one and move on to the next page. Sorry about that. I just realized the camera mic here was on too. So hopefully you didn't get a face full of vape. Alright, so now we're getting into some dialogue. We have to keep moving. Simple. Emotional, not really. Simple though. Bray pleaded as he yelled over the thunderous sounds around them. So I think what he's going to say, I keep talking about not burying information, but sometimes you need to, and so we're going to do it here. So we have to keep moving, Bray pleaded. So that's buried information. We don't know that he's pleading until after we've read that he said it. So what we're going to do is have him say, please, we have to keep moving. Please, we have to keep moving. And I might find a better word than please. I might look quick just because we're doing an experiment online. If I was by myself, I'd just leave it for now, but so also I kind of realized it's a good moment here to Bray just found out that this is his mother, right? So why is he begging her essentially to keep moving? She's stopping, right? And he's like, please, we have to keep moving, Bray urged. Bray urged, like the simplest term would be his recently discovered mother, right? Recently reconnected mother. So I'm gonna try to think of a better word for recently. But again, like I was saying earlier, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm really just making notes of what needs to be changed. Alright, I'm just gonna go with recently for now. Bray urged his recently reconnected mother as he yelled over the thunderous sounds. What they are, they're not around him, they're above him. There's helicopters in the sky. So, I don't think I need to explain that there's helicopters. I know from where I started this video you don't know, because you haven't been reading it with me, but it's mentioned plenty of times prior to this moment. Despite his words, Evelyn remained in place, taking the time to lift her hand against the chin of his downcast face. So I know what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, so, she's not moving, and his head's falling down, and then she wants to lift his head up. So that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think it comes across exactly. Despite his words, Evelyn remained in place, taking the time to lift her hand against the chin of his downcast face. It's poetic, but it's not right. So I think chin doesn't work, right? Taking the time to lift her hand against the weight of his downcast face. Again, it's poetic, right? Like, sometimes it's better to put a little bit of yourself into things. Hopefully that camera's focusing on the paper here. Seems like it. I'm so glad I got to see my son again, she spoke out, her soft voice barely audible over the noise. So we need to describe the noise, and this isn't realistic, right? I'm so glad I got to see my son again. I don't know if glad's the right word. I'm so glad. It's gonna be something like, it's gonna be longer. This is like, you don't know what's coming, but I'll just spoil it for you. Like, she's gonna give herself up in order to save him. And they just reconnected, right? So, it might be something like, my only wish was to see my son again. And then, so what I'm going to do is, we're going to break up the dialogue with the emotion and the movement. So, my only wish was to see my son again, she spoke out, her soft voice barely audible over the something noise. It's going to be, I'm just going to put notes here. Like I said, I'll fine tune it when I put it back into the digital document. Barely audible over the noise. Something like, for everything this world has taken from me, something like it found a way to grant me this moment. Again, like, that's far from perfect, but it at least like gets my focus. Like, I'll know exactly what to focus on when I transfer it all. So this would make this a new paragraph now. Of course, I wrote all over, so I'm just gonna kind of bring a line over and put in P. That's like my little new paragraph thing. I'm willing to accept the moments to come. Ray lowered himself, attempting to. So, again, I'm burying the information. Like, I'm alluding that something is happening, but I'm not saying what it is. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just be like straight up, right? And so, what I'm going to do is going to completely change this line, but unwilling to accept the tragedy. Right? Like, there it is, right? Now the reader knows it's coming. I'm willing to accept the tragedy to come. Bray lowered himself, attempting to pull her weight around his broad shoulders. So what I'm trying to say is that Bray's like, I'm going to carry you, right? I'll carry you. So I need to clean this up. What needs to be said is he lowered himself somewhere. He lowered himself under her stature. Lowered himself against her torso, attempting to pull Evelyn's weight around his broad shoulders. I'll never make it. I'll only slow you down, she said, this time with a sternness that only a loving mother could muster. So said isn't the right word there, right? You would just say that, right? You wouldn't be like, I'll never make it. I'll only slow you down. You cry it out, right? But cry doesn't work with stern, so it's like a stern cry. So what's a stern cry? That's a tough one. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go with spoke. I feel like that makes her seem more wise, right? Instead of emotional. Actually, what we're gonna do is this is better. She tenderly spoke, this time with a sternness that only a loving mother could muster. A tender mother, right? Bray studied her face as the circling winds flowed through. Bray studied Evelyn's face as the circling winds flowed through her hair. The single tear from her dark eye. You don't just say I. That's wrong. But the single tear from her dark eye whisked towards the side of her cheek from the rushing air. Bray studied Evelyn's face as the circling winds flowed through her hair. A single tear. Thus the single tear from her dark eyes whisked towards the side of her cheek. So there's too much from, right? Flowed through her hair. The single tear from her dark eyes whisked towards the side of her cheek. Something the blowing air. Moving, forced. So I'm trying to get rid of from, right? How about flow? Oh, we already have flow. So we need an alternative to flow. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this flowed to surged. Makes it seem like it's a higher wind, right? Surged through her hair towards the side of her cheek, flowing with the blowing air. Oops. So flowing. The single tear from her dark eyes whisked towards the side of her cheek, flowing with the... No, like blowing seems too childish, right? About howling here. Bray's hands fell towards his waist, still holding the soft skin of his mother's fingers. A small, accepting smile crept onto Evelyn's face as her body lurched forward, her pupils widening into the distance beyond Bray. I read ahead, so now I don't like howling air. I'll just say powerful. Bray's hands fell towards his waist, still holding the soft skin of his mother's fingers. So I'm reading ahead, So what's happening is she's been shot from above. Bray yelled out a howl that shocked even himself as the bullet from above tore into Evelyn's shoulder. Uh, I want to allude to that before. It seems to like it comes out of nowhere. I need a drink quick. Bray's hand fell towards his waist, still holding the soft skin of his mother, as it's not a bang, it's like a crack. It'll be cleaned up, but like I want to say just like a single shot was fired. So I'm gonna put a little asterisk there because that's definitely needs to be cleaned up. Not a small, a gentle, accepting smile crept onto Evelyn's face as her body lurched forward, her pupils widening into the distance beyond Bray. Bray not yelped out a howl that shocked even himself as the bullet from above tore into Evelyn's shoulder, the force from the projectile knocking her body down onto its knee, the force from the projectile knocking her body onto its knees. I think we just give it a down, right? Her limp wrists let go of Bray's hands as he dove forward, crashing into his mother's body in order to move her out of the brutal weapon's path. As more shots rang out from above. The back of Evelyn's head landed solidly on the grass below them. The back of Evelyn's head landed solidly on the grass below them as Bray held firmly onto her back. Her eyes locked onto his fading face. "I'll see you in my dreams," she said, through blood-soaked lips, her voice barely more than a whisper. I'm going to put crunchy grass just because I use that quite a bit to describe their environment that they're currently in. So yeah, that's basically how you edit when you get to, this is my 5th draft, right? Once you get to this point, it's all about, you're getting to the end here, like you just need to tighten everything up, pick the right words, sort of, and kind of start guiding yourself to what's going to be your final draft. We did a whole page just so you can see that. I'd like to do more of these, but I'd also like to help out anybody who's currently in this phase or wants to get to this phase, obviously. So, thanks for watching, anybody who did, and I look forward to the next live stream, and hopefully we'll have some chatters who want to hang out, ask some questions, all that good stuff. So, we will see you next time.